I just knew that when I got in there, I felt this giant release of stress and like what felt like tension and pressure in my body. And as soon as I would get out, the rest of the day, I'd feel so much more clear headed and things didn't affect me the same way. I got to the point where I started incorporating these things and I just started doing it every day. I was just playing with different kinds of breath work and all these different ideas and theories and ways of looking at it.
Welcome to the Energy Upgrade Podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Grutman. And if you are a high-achieving woman, a successful entrepreneur, an inspiring entrepreneur, or just a woman with kick-ass big dreams, you're in the right place. If you value your energy, your health, if you want to be a biohacker, tap into longevity, if you want to raise the impact you have in this lifetime, you're going to have a lot of fun around here. As a second-time seven-figure business creator, certified health practitioner, and soul biohacker, I'm here to reconnect you to your energy, to the soul of your business, and to your superpowers. Let's go. Welcome home. Welcome back to another episode of the Energy Upgrade Podcast. I'm so excited today to be welcoming Grant Dziak to the show. Grant, we've had the opportunity to meet each other in a very unusual circumstance, and I'm excited to actually go deep on this. Thank you so much for being here, Grant.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so stoked to be here and do this. And yeah, I guess I'll save all the other pleasantries because I think they kind of work into the story that we'll kind of cover.
Oh, absolutely. So we got to meet each other in a conference about a month ago where you actually got me to cold plunge, something that I have been resisting through every cells of my being because I hate being cold. I live in Canada. I feel like I'm cold 7 months of the year. And so I avoid it like the plague. Also, as I was recovering from my burnout, my nervous system was just so trashed and so shot that I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this to myself. And so, of course, we go to the booth. You work with Terrassage, and you are here. And I have one of my friends who's also an IHP, and she's like, you got to meet Grant. You got to meet Grant. He's going to change your life, and he's going to teach you how to cold plunge. And I remember I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And you're like, you have a bathing suit? I'm like, yes, kind of. And he's like, you go and put it on. So anyway, you helped me do this, and it was an incredible breakthrough. And I want to really go deep on this because it completely shifted my entire mindset around it. So first of all, I want to know, how did you get into cold plunging? Because I know this is something that is a critical piece of your lifestyle and your well-being. I want to know, when did this thing start? How did you fall in love with it? How do you use it? And then we'll dive deep into the benefits of cold plunging and who should consider doing it, not doing it, and all the juicy details.
Well, first of all, I want to give much credit to you because you had every ability to just escape that and not do it. You brought yourself back to that. And so you created that for yourself. Cause like you totally could have just escaped out on that and not done it. And you took it on. And it was, yours was probably one of my top 5 favorite. And I've taken like thousands of people through this at this point. And, because there's this thing where there's the more resistance and, there's people that will come to it and they have resistance to it and they're like, oh, I don't want to do it. And they kind of like complain about it, like, whatever. And then there's other people who do that, but deep down, they really want it. Like they know there's something there. And you were one of them. And you could tell it immediately because like the way you took it on, it was like, it's like a privilege to get to be a part of that and watch that. So I first want to give some props to you.
Oh, wow.
And then, so I got into this. The first time I ever did cold immersion was, I remember in like high school playing football, spraining my ankle, and they're like, oh, get in the cold tub or, put your ankle in the ice bucket. And you're just like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. And I just remember like that sucked really bad. And then I played football at Ohio State and I was a walk-on. And I just knew I wanted to try to stand out from everybody else any possible way that I could. So we had a giant cold tub that could fit, 20, 30 guys at a time. So all these big high profile guys would get in, shrug their shoulders up and they're like tight and they're complaining and bitching the whole time. So I was like, how can I stand out in this? I was like, I'm going to stand there and act totally cool the entire time. I'm going to have my arms down, my shoulders back, relax. I'll have my hands in, and I won't say or do anything. And I had no idea why it was working the way it was. I just knew that when I did that and forced myself to hold my body different, that it didn't feel painful to me. So flash forward a couple years, I got out of college and I ran bars and restaurants for a long time, and I gained quite a bit of weight. I got up to about 310 pounds. And then 10 years ago, I had like this situation that came up with someone that I worked with, where we made a bet essentially. And it was about who'd have better abs within like the next 6 months. And I ended up, I'm not going to say I ended up with better abs, but I dropped about 80 pounds in 4 months. Now, I just want to put like a disclaimer with that, that I don't encourage people to try to drop that kind of weight, but I had a lot of muscle on my body already. And I had a quite an extreme lifestyle. Like I was drinking about a bottle of Crown a day,
Oh,
and and that was through shots. And just while I was working, and you don't even realize how much you're drinking because you're moving so
mm.
fast, you're metabolizing everything. And but I would eat like crap, and I had zero recovery. I didn't sleep very well. And so when I changed all these things and I quit drinking, I changed my diet, I changed my routine, everything improved across the board. And I got caught up in this kind of very external life for a couple of years because I actually had abs and I was like, oh, this is what everything is. Until I realized like I still had these injuries and these pain points for things like physically. So I had to start learning a different way to handle these things. And so I shifted my entire approach from being this physical external one to very much internal. And what happens, I started healing my body from the inside out. And then in like 2018, 2019, I really started doing cold immersion again. And at that point, I was just kind of forcing myself to do it. It was just like an uncomfortable thing. And then eventually, I think it was during COVID, my the woman who became my wife, her and I started doing it together pretty often. And I started doing it just every single day. And then I started experiencing some other stressors in my life and throughout over the next couple of years. And I started doing it for the sake of nervous system regulation. Now, a lot of this stuff was just kind of like self-taught because I didn't know. I just knew that when I got in there, I felt this giant release of stress and like what felt like tension and pressure in my body. And as soon as I would get out the rest of the day, I'd feel so much more clear headed and things didn't affect me the same way. So I got to the point where I started incorporating these things and I just started doing it every day. I was just playing with different kinds of breath work and all these different ideas and theories and ways of looking at it until I started realizing that all these things are actually super interconnected. Like the way
Yeah.
you hold your breath, the way you control your breath, the way you utilize your breath, it'll completely take you into so many different states of mind. And when it takes you into different states, that also takes you into different attentions. Where you attend, or is your attention on your conscious thinking mind, or is it down in your body in your subconscious? And what I started experiencing was almost like a psychedelic experience, doing a little bit of breath work and then getting in this tub. And it was like I was zoning out. I would completely zone out, and it'd be 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes. Now, I want to also put a disclaimer, and I'll put a disclaimer with probably quite a few things in here because there was a lot of stuff that I just did when I originally started doing this that I didn't know any better. But 5 minutes should be like the max you're ever doing cold
Yes.
exposure for.
Yes.
Much beyond that is just kind of ego and kind of
Yeah.
diminishing returns.
Yes. Thank you
But
for saying that. That's very important because more
oh,
is not
yeah.
better.
Right, absolutely. Like there's a very egoic side of this, and I think during COVID actually is when Wim Hof became huge, and people started looking at different ways of living, and then started approaching ice baths from this very like almost like a challenge kind of point of view. And when you're challenged to do something, it's how long can I do it? It's how long can I endure it? Which is a very masculine thing. So you're into the
Yes.
mind, and your mind is only ever trying to keep you alive, avoid pain and energy efficiency. So it's trying to survive. It's trying to keep away from anything that's going to hurt you. And you're going to try to stay in your habitual patterns of belief systems and things because all it wants to do is keep you alive. And what we came to realize is the stressor of that cold water is a belief system. Like when you approached it, and everybody does, they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's bad because it's like putting your hand on a hot stove when you're young. You burn your hand and you lock it in as a core memory and you go, this is bad. Avoid this at all costs. This is uncomfortable. And the best way to change up anything in your life is to create a pattern interrupt. And you create a pattern interrupt when what you perceive to come up happening and anticipate happening next doesn't happen. So when you go to get in that cold water and you're like, this is going to be absolutely miserable. I'm going to hate this with everything in my body. Um, and all of a sudden you regulate to it, and all of a sudden you're breathing and you're kind of comfortable, and you get like acclimated to it, and you regulate, and you're sitting there and you don't even care about getting out anymore. And you're almost like, I kind of want to stay in a little bit longer. It's a very big pattern interrupt in your life, and it's such a metaphor for so many other things of maybe I don't have to experience anything else in life the way I perceive that I have to, and including all of my stressors, everything that triggers me. So if I can do that right now, maybe this could become a practice where I can learn how to regulate my thought process and control my behavior when my body's experiencing stress.
Yeah. And that is really what I felt, because I've done cold plunging plenty of times before. Like, I mean, just those Scandinavian spas where you got to do it's like there's cold plunging. And I realized I never did it well, and I never approached it well. That's that's what you made me realize. And it was such a and it's so amazing to hear it was in your top five, because also, funny enough, my husband and my kids kind of showed up at that moment. And so while I was in there, they were witnessing that moment, which was super powerful. And you you brought me into my body, and
Mm,
you really just showed me how to do it well. And it felt like, almost as like you said, a psychedelic experience. I can totally relate to that. It felt like I was so deep, like I could like you gave me a few tips of visualizing the pain moving out of my feet and like moving. I
mm,
like I could totally see with each breath I was standing taller. With each breath, I was sinking in. With each breath, my shoulders were relaxing. Like, it was so wild. And when you told me you've done 3 minutes, we're done, I was like, what? What?
yeah.
Like, seriously, I thought you were going to tell me we were at 30 seconds or something like that. And it was so beautiful to see, like, oh my gosh, I can do this. So what's next? That's
Yeah.
really kind of what, and it was interesting, everything else that unfolded that day after that moment. For me, I was, we were at the conference, and like so many people showed up, and like crazy connections happened in the 2 hours following that moment. So I truly believe that it was a massive pattern interrupt. So I want you to share some of your magic with people
Mm,
that are listening, people that might be scared of cold plunging. So maybe we start with, what are the benefits of
cool.
cold plunging, and who should consider doing that?
So I want to tie in what you just said. And I'm going to start there because you said it was so in my body. And your body from your neck down is essentially that's your subconscious mind, that's your emotional center. And if you've ever read The Body Keeps the Score, or you've heard any of
Mhm.
these things, like your body holds all the wisdom, your body holds on to every emotion you've ever had. And what happens is we experience a sensation of feeling an emotion in our body, and like almost immediately, within milliseconds, sends those signals to our brain. And our brain is so from our neck up is like a Rolodex of every memory we've ever had. So neck down, every emotion we've ever had, neck up, every memory we've ever had. So all we end up doing is we take the emotion that we have and we try to label it. So it's like kind of trying to like match cards. And then we end up staying in our brain because we start perceiving every threat that there possibly is. And we never go back down into our body. So when you're standing outside the tub and I'm having you do a couple of breaths, you're getting into your body. The second you feel the stress of the water, and you're going to feel that no matter what, the moment you hit the water, you're going to have a massive spike of your adrenaline. That's inevitable. It doesn't matter how tough you are, how good you are at this. You're going to experience that shock no matter what. At that moment, we go into the brain. And then the things I'm saying to you, like while you're in the tub, it's almost just kind of reminding you how to get back into your body again, because it's trying to pull. I'm essentially, it's like I'm trying to lasso your attention and draw that energy back into your body and get it out of your brain. And so all I'm actually doing is I'm reminding you of what you wanted to do before you were exposed to a very uncomfortable situation. And as soon as you can control that breath, as soon as you start relaxing those shoulders, as soon as you soften that belly just a little bit, you go back into your body. And when you're in your body, things feel really good. There's no threat. And the way we hold our body and control our body is how we communicate to our brain and our entire system, whether or not we're under attack.
Mhm.
So that's called being in flow. So when we're very heady and we're stressed or we're angry, we're upset, we feel heartbroken, sad, like people are out to get us. This is why we struggle to create when we're in those spaces, because we're not coming from an emotional space. We're coming from a very logical space. We're trying to meticulously calculate how to do everything. And it's very primal also. Your brain doesn't focus on 2024 and how do we want to react to the stressors in our life. It's very primal. It's like we evolved as a species 200,000 years ago and then massively about 50,000 years ago. So when you get into that water, when your significant other says something to you and just pisses you off, when you get cut off in traffic, when you have a deadline at work, your body isn't experiencing it as those things that kind of consciously seem very simplistic. It's experiencing it as like a mountain lion about to eat your head. It is experiencing it as the tribe hasn't come back with food for a very long time. Like we don't know if we're going to survive. So it's very primal. And when you trust that instinct and you get into that, you get back into the body. When you're in the body, you're in flow and it feels good and everything's fun and you don't experience pain and you don't have those stressors, you don't have those attacks, you don't have those threats in your life. So you're in flow and it links up with the idea that time flies when you're having fun because you go, I can't
Mhm.
believe it was like 3 minutes. How'd that happen? And it's because you're not in your mind about it. And it's so if you think about every time you try to speed up time, like I'm like, oh my God, I want to get out of this situation. Well, why do you want to get out of it? Because I don't like it. Why do you not like it? Because it's uncomfortable. That's a threat. So you're in your head, it slows time down. So that's why at the very end, I'm like, you have 60 seconds left. Make this last as long as you possibly can. And at that point, it's like, what do I want to get out of this? What do I want to feel? So you stay in the body. If you try speeding it up, you go back up into the mind. So the goal and the task is to stay as much in your body and in flow as you possibly can. That is what keeps, to me, the biggest benefit of all of this, because people look at things like brown fat mobilization, which is the conversion of your white fat to brown fat. White, think of white fat like the kind of like the blubbery fat that we have that in general, people are like, I want less of this. And it'll convert to brown fat or beige fat, which is thermogenic fat. So it essentially is what helps with metabolism. So people look at things like that. So people will approach it all the time from this kind of standpoint of like, oh, is this going to make me skinnier? So you have that. You get a 2 to 300 on average, up to 500% increase in dopamine. You also get a massive spike in melatonin. So, and we can talk about that aspect a little bit later. But you know, for me, it's the mental clarity and the ability to create nervous system regulation. If you can regulate against that stimulus and your nervous system doesn't kick in as in pain and you're in this, this very uncomfortable state where you're perceiving everything as a threat. And I'm talking about instead of getting in and trying to toughen it out to get to those other benefits, and instead you go, well, the process of how quickly can I regulate back to myself? How quick, instead of how long can I endure, how quickly can I regulate? Well, that's relates directly to your everyday life. That's the same thing as relating those stressors of getting triggered by the silly little things in our life. Because for women, and not to make anyone upset, but for women, when you trigger your nervous system response, that system will stay active for up to 24 hours, and for men up to 9 hours. And this is directly why uh, husband and wife can get into an argument at night. Wake up in the morning, the man's like, okay, let's live life. And the woman could still be in a place where she's feeling very defensive about things because your system has not reset yet. And every time that you experience a new stimulus, you reset that clock. So the majority of us are living constantly. Like, think about how many, like, when's the last time you did something that pissed you off and nothing else happened within 24 hours?
Yeah, that
Usually
doesn't happen.
it's just a chain reaction, right? So it's like we kind of keep resetting the clock. We reset the clock to the point where we are constantly staying in this elevated state. Now, when your nervous system is activated, and your sympathetic nervous system is activated, and you're in fight or flight, your digestive system shuts off, your excretory system shuts off, your reproductive system shuts off, because all of that energy it's like shutting down all the power in all the extra rooms of your house to channel all of the power to the one room of the house where you're gonna be living in. And because all that energy is going to be able to create blood flow to your muscles so you can either run or you can fight, your pupils dilate, it
Yeah.
enhances everything.
Hmm.
So what do we all say? We're always like, I can't poop, I have no sex drive, and I have no creativity. And I try to diet, but it doesn't feel like I'm getting any results. And it's because your systems are not responsive. They're not operating based on you. So to me, the biggest benefit you can ever get is to be able to create such resiliency within your behavior when your nervous system is trying to kick on, and your ability to toggle that switch back off before it truly activates, so you can experience life in a completely different way. At that point, your digestion is online. Guess what? You digest food better, your metabolism works better. You do get all those extra benefits on the other side, but all of your systems stay online. When all of your systems stay online, it's like everything's working in connection with one another.
If you've been following me for a while, you know how obsessed I am with my morning routine. My morning ritual is really what sets me up for the day by raising my energy and opening the field of possibilities. Now, after being asked over and over again for all the juicy details of what do I do in my morning ritual, I decided to write an ebook about it. Now, this ebook, I promise it won't disappoint. I go in details into the 9 steps that I include every morning in my routine. Now, I do want to reassure you, you don't have to do all the 9 steps to gain any benefits, because in fact, the mere fact of wanting to create an intentional morning ritual, and even if there's only a single step in it, will actually open your field of abundance. And that is why I love my ritual so much. I have created this ebook so that you can actually contemplate and reflect and experiment with brand new things that you might never have considered adding to your routine. And trust me, this one will create momentum. That is my goal. And you are going to be invited at the end of the ebook to create your very own morning ritual based on what you learned in the ebook. Now, all of this is now finally available for only $11. You can message me with the word morning, and I will send you the link to get access right away to this incredible ebook that is going to add so much value to your day. Now, trust me, this one is too good not to miss. And hey, why not also gift it to someone that you care about? Okay, so what you're saying is when you're cold plunging, basically you're doing a reset. Is that what you're saying?
You can be. It's and
If
that's
you're
the
doing it right.
yeah. Well, the goal of it is so. Let's think about it like this. Let's think about when someone goes through it. So what do I tell people? I tell people the way you hold your body is what's going to be what communicates to your system whether I'm under attack or not under attack. So think of the next time you're arguing with somebody or your significant other. What's happening? We're tensing up. Our shoulders are going up. We're kind of closing in on ourselves. Our breath is getting shallow, and like we're starting to get kind of cloudy vision, right? And that's because our nervous system is kicking in. We're going into fight or flight. And that almost will start happening on a habitual pattern, to the extent that we will literally experience feelings in our body. Like the chemicals are like, your body and brain do not care what the habits are that you create. But if you create it regularly over and over and over, it'll just turn it into a habit, to the point where we release these chemicals on a habitual pattern. So we go through a heartbreak and we're so sad, we're so depressed, we can't get over it. And we wake up every day like that, checking our phone the exact same way. Well, now it's to the point where your brain doesn't care anymore. You're not thinking, oh, let me check my phone to see if she messaged me. You're waking up and your hand's naturally just reaching for your phone, triggering those same emotions in your body, triggering the same thoughts, letting go of the same chemicals on this pattern release system. Almost like a lot of issues happen between families on Saturday and Sunday mornings with couples who work 9 to 5s, because they're typically on Monday through Friday, they're sitting in rush hour traffic at 6, 7 a.m. They're stressed about some deadline at work, what their boss is going to say, whether they're going to be late, whatever they have going on. And they do this 5 days a week. And they do it 52 weeks out of the year. Sorry, 50. You get 2 weeks for a vacation. So you experience that on such a regular basis that come Saturday or Sunday morning, your body does not know that it's Saturday morning. It goes, it's 7 a.m. We release these chemicals this way. So now you have this release of chemical, but there's no one cutting you off in traffic. There's no boss that you're about to see. There's no one in the break room that you have to bitch and complain to. So all that energy has to go somewhere, and we end up channeling it towards our kids, our wives, our husbands, our significant others, our family, whatever it is. And we create these issues because whatever feelings we have we subconsciously will create the story that justifies the feeling that we're experiencing. So yes, you can reset all of that when you start creating that pattern interrupt of my body's starting to release these chemicals, but I'm going to control what my behavior is when I'm experiencing this stressor in my life.
Mm, so powerful. Wow. Because yeah, that's truly how I felt after, like after coming out, I felt so good and so regulated. It actually blew me away. I was like, okay, I don't remember feeling my nervous system so regulated, and it lasted quite a long time, and it just felt so grounding and so powerful. And so maybe that explains it. It was just like it came to turn the switch off and reset, an opportunity to also just from a mindset standpoint, when you come out and you're like, I freaking did it. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did it. So like when it comes to limiting beliefs and fears and things, you're like, I can crush this, no problem. Like we are so much stronger than we think.
Well, there's nothing stronger or more powerful than anecdotal experiences. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like people can tell you things, you can be like, oh, I'll do whatever. But when you actually experience it for yourself, nobody can change your mind on it then. You now have created a new target in your mind. And that's why I always relate it to like a psychedelic experience, like a plant medicine ceremony. You do ayahuasca, bufo, psilocybin, any of those with under a very intentional situation. And what you can experience is something so far beyond your perception of your current conscious perception, and you experience it, and because of that it now creates a new target in your life of what's possible. Now you come
Mhm.
back to everyday reality, and now you have to integrate it. That means, so the same thing happens with this. You can't just do it when you get into a cold tub or an uncomfortable situation intentionally, and intentionality is everything behind it. You're intentionally practicing the simulation so that it directly relates to not triggering or not responding the same way when someone would trigger you in everyday life, or you'd experience some sort of stressor in everyday life.
Yeah. So I love that idea of like, okay, when you want to go into a cold plunge, bring in the intention of what you're trying to get out of this and bringing the intention of, yeah, pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
Um, And so, for anybody listening, because I know like cold plunging is becoming a trend, and you've mentioned it at one point, I said something on the internet at one point, and that video went viral where I was like, okay, wait a minute, like everybody was doing contests, it was super trendy. It was actually during COVID when people were posting, oh, I did 8 minutes, I did, and I'm like, wait, that's not okay, that's not sustainable. And I could see a lot of my clients are like high achieving women that are already on the edge, basically, like you said, in sympathetic nervous system all the time, that we're like, I can do it too. I'm tough. I can do this. I'll go and try to like, I'm gonna beat you guys. And I remember being like, no, 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 no. This is not how we go about this. If we want this to regulate us, well, we have to bring in an intention. We have to be really clear on our why. And what I love that you did with me is you really brought that feeling of safety. I am safe in my body. And truly, when we think about it, I'm going to speak for women. Most women, we walk around and we haven't felt safe in
Mm.
years. Like we haven't felt safe within our own selves. Like we have been so disconnected from our bodies, just living in our heads, like you said. And so like it's actually a scary place to go back down in our body because it's like, ooh, what am I going to find there?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't already like I already have a hard time coping with what's in my head. Like what am I going to find there? Um, but for people listening, because I'm seeing like cold plunging places and clubs launching everywhere. So if people are going there on their own, how can we, because you're not going to be there. So how can they like self-direct themselves, like lead themselves at a higher level and not just go in, try to crush it, but really like just like what would you say is the best way to lead ourselves on our own through that experience?
Yeah, totally. So like the event you were at. So there's a couple different, like, when I travel around with Therasage, we hit up all different kinds of events, and some are very kind of private. There's smaller events. Others are huge, massive ones with like thousands of people walking around you, and and you're talking about bodies, and it's like, okay, so I'm going to get into a bathing suit in front of thousands of people. Well, we all have body image insecurity on some level, so we're already experiencing that, and
Mm-hmm.
so the way I I always try to get people to think of it as like, this is such an investment. It feels like there is such a risk on the front end. Like it's going to ask so much of you. But think of any investment, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward on the other side. So if you buy into it and you go all in, it's the ability to truly start shutting out the stimulus of anybody around you. So if you're in a public space, a cool thing that I have people do is I tell them to start listening for the space between the noise. Like literally
Mm.
listen for the silence, and it tunes you in so much. So
Mm.
instead of going, oh my God, everything's a distraction, or trying to go, I'm trying to breathe and I'm trying to concentrate. No, you don't want to concentrate. You want to be in your body.
Yeah.
So I always have people do diaphragmatic breathing. So it's inhale through the nose and fill that belly up as much as you can. Now, when you fill your belly, a couple things are happening. One, we typically always breathe into our ribs. We short, shallow breathe.
Yeah.
So if I said that we experience a feeling in our body first, and then we match it to a thought and try to label it in our brain, we breathe into our ribs all day long. We're not getting a full breath of air. And then at one point we go, we go, oh my God, I have anxiety. And we label it anxiety. Now we find all the things in our environment that confirm to us that we are experiencing anxiety.
Mm.
And now we have anxiety. Now that's habitual. We do it enough times. Now I'm not taking this away from anybody. I'm not undermining people that experience true clinical anxiety. But so much of the time, the way we hold our body and what we're actually doing, we're creating it in ourselves. So it's to fill that belly up. Now, this is very difficult for people to do at first. It's like so uncomfortable because, and the majority of the time, people will do this in reverse. You know, you say, inhale through the nose and fill the belly with oxygen, because what's happening is you're giving your organs room to move. Your lungs have space to drop and they turn into almost vacuums, which will help you suck in that much more oxygen, which will help stimulate the vagal nerve and tell your system that you're safe. So, like the multiple, this isn't just like woo woo, like
No, 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 no.
meditating up on a mountain in Tibet. And once people kind of get out of that, and people are usually willing to open up to this because like, dude, they're like, literally anything that's going to help me, I'll try it. So a lot of times this is people experiencing intentional breathing for the first time. Okay, so shut out as much stimulus around you as you can, and and what I tell people is I'm like, nobody wants to do like an ice bath. So anybody watching you, they're not judging you. They're going, holy shit, like look at what a badass that is. And it's at that moment you get into your breath, inhale through the nose, fill the belly up, exhale nice and slow through the mouth. So if you can exhale just a little bit longer than what your inhale is, you again are communicating to your system how safe you are. So shutting out stimuluses, inhale through the nose, fill the belly, exhale through the mouth. And then when you go to get in, the way you hold your body is everything. If you shrug those shoulders up and you tense and tight your body and you get in really slow and you're going, holy shit, and you're screaming and you're like making a big deal out of it. Well, when do you do that when you're not in a cold tub? It's when you're under attack. It's when you're getting in a car accident, when you're getting into a fight, when you feel threat. So your body's responding not to the stimulus that's actually happening. It's responding to the way that you're tensing your body because it runs on a pattern also. Every time
Mhm.
we do this, we feel unsafe. So then we go into the brain. We go, ah, oh, this is bad. This is so unhealthy. So it's the ability to override that just for a second. You're going to feel that bite right when you get in. And
Oh
you
yeah.
just come as fast as you can pull back to your breath. You can override it because no matter what, you're going to want to short, shallow breathe. You want to
It takes your breath away. Like it really does. And that's why
totally.
going back to the breath as soon as possible, what you're saying is so important. Otherwise, you get in your head and then it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think Tony Robbins is the one who says it all the time. He's like, if you're in your head, you're dead. Because if
It's
you're in
so
your
true.
head, yeah, like it's like you're going to stop doing everything because everything's going to feel like a threat. So if you can just force that big and like a long exhale a couple times and trust that within 3 to 4 breaths, you're going to start feeling better. And as soon as you start going, okay, I can feel a little bit of a shift, you'll relax that much more. And then with every exhale, just find a part of your body to relax just 1% more. And that's it. And it's just this routine of inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, and try to relax the body just 1% more. And the more you can focus on a part of your body, maybe it's a thigh, maybe it's literally, maybe it's your kneecap, bring your awareness. Like right now, think of the skin in the very middle of your right heel. And it's like you can actually draw your attention there if you really think about it, but your brain can't focus on multiple things at once. So if your attention is going to that part of your body, your awareness is in your body, it's not in your brain. So you're able to get into that flow, and then you stay with that breath and you're regulating. And the more you can allow yourself to turn to jello essentially, and I get it. As people hear that, they're like, that's insane. You can't, I can't do that. I'm freezing. And the thing is, you believe that you can't. If you
Hmm.
override that and go, okay, I'm gonna let myself just relax as much as I possibly can, all of a sudden your body starts feeling so comfortable. But you have to force it to do that because you're forcing it out of its normal habitual pattern. So you stay with that breath over and over, and pretty soon you're going to start realizing this shift is going to start happening in your body. And it's not just your body going numb, it is literally you taking back control over your system. And as soon as you experience that, that's that moment where people will look down at their hands and they're like, oh my God. And you're looking at your hands in 37-degree water, and you're like, I can't believe this is my body. Like, it doesn't feel the way I thought it was going to feel.
Yeah, it is so true. Wow. It's incredible. It's hard to believe that the Energy Upgrade podcast will soon be reaching 100 episodes. Can you believe it? And the fact that you are still here week after week with a growing community just blows my mind. And so for that reason, I have prepared a very fun contest. If you leave a 5-star review on the Energy Upgrade on Apple Podcast, you screenshot it and send it to me and my team via DMs on Instagram at Vanessa Grutman. You will be entered into the draw of a 7-day liver detox protocol. Now, we will be drawing multiple protocols because we want this gift to keep on giving. Not only are you getting high value episodes here week after week, but now we also want to thank you for showing up. And we want to thank you for sharing the love, because when you leave a 5-star review, not only am I able to receive and read your comment, but also other women are able to find the powerful information that we share here. And this is so important in order for us to raise our light, to rise in our power, and in order for this community to keep growing so that we can create the change we want to see in the world. I thank you so much for being here, and thank you for considering participating into this celebration and this fun contest. It will be running until the end of the year, so don't wait. Leave your review today. Send me a screenshot so that you can be entered into the draw. My team will be reaching out to all the winners every week. Thank you and good luck. I have a question. So sometimes I see people going with their head in. So
Mhm.
I'm curious to know, when would it be a good idea to go all in and come out, or like are there any benefits?
Yeah. So here's a really cool thing is the way there is a lot of research around the higher up to your neck, around your occipital lobe, right where all those nerves come right up on the back side of your
Mm-hmm.
skull and connect. If you can have that in, it's a huge benefit as well. It's going to feel a little
Oh.
bit more intense. Obviously, you have a ton of uh, nerves throughout your face, your facial expressions, tense, everything. Oh, that's another big thing. Control your facial expressions when you get in. Everyone wants to scrunch their face up. So I always
Mm.
tell people to relax your brow, because we're gonna try to fight through it, and you got to think, I'm not trying to fight through anything. I'm trying to literally find flow and finesse within all of it. And if you listen to all these words I'm saying, they're like, that sounds kind of weird. It's right, because I'm not telling you to approach this from a masculine standpoint. I'm actually encouraging you to approach this from a very feminine, in my body, my feeling state place. And and if you want to see what happens, there'll be some big ass dudes at these events. They're big muscle meatheads and tatted up and beards, all these things. And they're in front of their friends that are trying to impress them. They get in and they start hyperventilating. And
Mm-hmm.
once they're that scared, I'm like, listen to me and you'll look like such a badass. And they do this and they get into their body. And like you said, for a lot of women, like we haven't felt safe. And men don't feel safe to go there either. And so us as a collective, it's not that men are only trying to be masculine or women are only trying to be masculine. It's that we're all kind of avoiding the feminine. And that feminine is that subconscious part of our body, our emotional state, because most of us are scared to tap into it. It's like Pandora's box. Like, how
Uh-huh.
much is actually in there? So especially it's really cool to watch a big, strong guy get into that. And dude, you'll see him start crying. And not because he's so uncomfortable, but because he's tapping literally into his emotional center.
And then there's
And
a release.
yes. And it's so amazing. Like they get out and people are like, yeah. And like, they're still like, that's what's so cool about what this is and why these events are so amazing is because no matter what, like a guy can get out with tears in his eyes and his buddies are like, they're still like, you're such a badass. And then they're like, there's got to be something to this. Cause like, I don't think I could do what you just did. And you're crying. And all of a sudden we don't envision this emotional release as this weak, feminine like thing. And women will get into their bodies again. And that's very powerful because women are thrive when they're in their feminine energy. And
Of
it's like
course,
creating,
that's our superpower. So,
yeah.
hell
So you're
yes.
creating your own safety within yourself.
And that's truly what I felt. But so going back to the head, like, would there
Mhm.
be
Oh
benefits
yeah.
for anybody to like dunking all in or?
So this is what I encourage people to do is if it's your first time doing it or your first few times doing it, wait till the end. Do it at the end of your session.
Okay.
What I do now is because what you're trying to establish essentially at when you first start doing it is where is my nervous system response like? How much am I not enjoying this? How much am I clamoring up? How much am I tightening? How much am I panicking? Um, and it's like, people along with something like dunking the head, people are like, how long do I stay in? How cold do I get it? And it's you want it to be cold enough that it's like you want to get out. You want to get out, but you are capable of staying in. Now at 50 degrees, I'm like, I wouldn't want to necessarily swim all the time at 50 degrees, but 50 degrees is pretty calm to me. So I can take it down pretty low, and I live right next to the lake, so I'll get in the lake. But what I do is, and I think this is powerful for people to try, is when I go to get in, I drop all the way down underneath right away. I go all the way under and I come up. When you come up, because what you're doing essentially is you're saying there's no part of my body that I'm resisting this with. There's no part of
Mm.
me that I'm trying to keep out of this. So I'm okay with all of this. I'm ready to just immerse myself in it. And when you do that, and when you come out of that water, you don't want to come up and go, you come up almost like a Navy SEAL, like you're trying to be so stealth and quiet. And you come up nice and calm because now I'm communicating with my body. Even though I'm feeling this shock, I'm okay. I can handle this. And that's what is the biggest benefit to me is the way you can control your behavior under the stress.
Wow. I love this. Oh my gosh. So I want to just take the last few minutes here to talk about like, so you work with Therasage. They recently launched their cold plunging tub, which is amazing because it's portable and it doesn't take up a lot of space. And I appreciate one thing that they did is there's a water filter in there that allows the water to go through a reverse osmosis system. So we make sure that the water in the tub is not toxic and like full of crap. And there's an ozone system, which is what they're really good at to keep the water clean. So it's
Yes.
basically like it's awesome because you don't have to have a bunch of chemicals in there, but also um like the water is non-toxic, which means it's going to be low maintenance, right?
Yes. Yes. So we don't use any chemical in the
That's
TheraFrost.
so good.
So we have a filter on the back which has the frequency card embedded with the frequency of structured water, creating the vortex, and that kind of replicates what you would imagine. Maybe like I always picture the rivers in Colorado. Like if you've ever gone cold plunging in like one of
Mm.
those rivers, it's that natural vortex created through passing over the rocks, and you also get like the earth frequency with that. So when you do that, we also have the filter in there, so it's gonna, I think you change that once a month, and it's extremely low cost to get a pack of those. Then we have like a small lint trap on the inside, so it'll catch like dog hair, anything like that. So I use mine every single day, and I probably change the water out like once every 2 or 3 months, and it stays extremely clean. It's not dirty. It's not murky. It's nothing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really
yeah.
nice.
And it
So
goes low as we had it at
37.
37. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is what you recommend.
So it again, it kind of depends. There's a couple different philosophies and theories to it. One of them being that if you just go to the coldest of the cold, and you go in every day, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, eventually you adapt to that and you get very used to that. And it's kind of equivalent to like to experience the benefits. It's very similar to like progressive overload in the gym. If
Hmm.
if I just go into the gym and I hit the max weight, well, I've kind of like plateaued myself already. So it's the ability to take a couple things into account. One is, what are you feeling? Now, this is a really cool aspect because it actually forces you to take true inventory of what you're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. So some days I'll do it at 37, other days I might do it at 45. And yes, I do experience a difference between that. I never usually go above 45, but I might go for a little bit longer. Or if I'm doing 37, I might change up what I'm doing. I might change the way I'm trying to breathe. And now with what I do in my own personal business, and the way I work with clients and the way I utilize breath work, I do some different things. So I'll usually do about 5 minutes and I do a giant inhale. And lately I've been doing about a 3 to 4 minute breath hold underwater at the end. So
What?
I'm completely
Okay.
submerged.
I mean, yeah, okay, we're next level here.
Well, but what the reason I'm doing that is because there's something really cool. If you ever go underwater, like in a bathtub or a pool, and there's not really anything else around you, you'll realize you can hear your own heartbeat.
Yes.
And and it's very steady. It's very meditative for me. So this isn't just like I'm trying to be some badass. I'm literally messing around with the relationship between my body and my brain, the way it affects my heartbeat, the way it affects my breathing. So I can go underwater, I can hear my heartbeat, I can hear it be nice and slow. I can try and count with it. And what happens is if I speed up my counting because I'm trying to achieve this external metric of time, I hear my heartbeat start speeding up. Now it's more
Mhm.
difficult to hold my breath. Now everything in my system is saying you're not even going to make it as it is. So why would you slow it back down? As I intentionally slow my counting back down, I hear my heartbeat regulate almost to the counting that I'm doing, to the point where I'm sitting there and I'm having these thoughts. I'm like, how am I going to make it as long as I possibly can? Because obviously you're always trying to challenge yourself. And I can feel my heart, I can hear my heartbeat slow down. I can feel it get easier to hold my breath again. I can feel my body relax. And the practice of doing that is to almost be in a state where you feel yourself go elevated and kind of relax. And I always use it as what I always think of as being in like an argument or a confrontation of some sort. And because what happens is when we get in those confrontations, that to me is the ultimate form of fight or flight. Like we're really ready to fight somebody. And some of my upbringing, you know, there were some things I experienced that I've never been in a fight in my life. And I refuse to fight. I don't ever have any desire to hit anybody. I think I might kill them. Seriously. I boxed a few times with a Golden Gloves boxer and he just like held the miss and he's like, man, you really should never hit anybody. He's like, you could probably do some damage. And that's not about being tough. It's just I know I've learned how to use my body. And I don't think hitting people, and it's between that and also running bars and restaurants for a long time. Like I saw a lot of fights and these things are it's senseless. Like what are you proving? Nothing. Odds are you're going to either end up in jail or with a broken hand.
Yeah,
And so neither are
a
anything
good
great.
idea.
So that's what I always compare it to is how many times can I go elevated and pull control and pull myself back down to a regulated standpoint.
Wow. Okay, this is next level. I love it. And it just goes to show how powerful it can be at just regulating it, in the way we show up in life, in the way we take on new challenges, and the way we are all in. Like this is just another level. And of course, there's some people that shouldn't do it, and that's something that they can, or maybe they could start at like 1 minute, at 45, and they just ease themselves into it. But definitely, if you're listening, I think you should consider trying it and trying what Grant has said, like really getting into the body and following some of his tips, because it is such a beautiful experience when you get to do it that well and that intentionally. Yeah, it's
Well,
it's
when it
yeah,
for anyone like kind of starting it out, a big thing that where you want to definitely have supervision or you want to take precaution is if you have any type of cardiac issue
yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah,
Now, in general, and again, this isn't, I'm making the disclaimer, this is not medical advice by any means. I have a belief that we can overcome anything, that we can literally create resiliency within ourselves with anything. Now,
hmm,
that doesn't mean maybe I'm going to jump into 32-degree water, but I can experience something that's going to create a stimulus that's uncomfortable that I have to regulate against. And we can progress from there. But, and then there's so many studies around women, especially because of the hormone profile.
yeah,
A woman in her follicular phase, a lot of the research that's been done is that it's not necessarily a good thing that'll intensify the symptoms of PMS, things like that. But there's also been studies done where, and this is where everything becomes so like whatever, because you can literally find research that'll
it's
back
so
whatever
true.
you want your cognitive bias to be. But there's
So
also been research done where the test group, like the over half reported back that it lessened their PMS symptoms.
yeah, I can
So
see
so
that.
so it's very individualized, I think, in a lot of ways. But like with anything else, like consult with your doctor, ask your doctor, do your own research. Like every body is different, and the way we experience things is different. You have to have a level of awareness, just like anything else. I know a lot of people that try to use it as a way to regulate their stress in the moment, and to me, I don't think that's a great idea. Like they're super active, they're pissed off, they're angry.
Mm,
Well, you add that much more of a stressor to yourself, which I compare this as like when people are really angry and they're like, I'm going to go to the gym as my therapy. Well, like that's another stressor on top of an already stressed
yeah.
system. Try to
Yes.
regulate yourself first, move your body without the extra tension. Like literally, and since we're speaking on it from this place of mindset and mentality and psychological fortitude, is you have to realize that that's based on emotion, and emotion is just energy in motion. So if you want to experience a different emotion, you have to have a different motion, move your body different, change the way you're doing things. If like choose, I think when you got out, I had you put your arms up in the air. It's
Yeah.
literally because you're exposing your organs. You're literally opening your body up, going, I'm safe. I can do this.
Yes.
Hop around, dance, shake, like gross motor movement, whatever it is. Because when we start to get triggered, what do? We hunker down. Usually we'll
Yeah.
find a couch, a chair, something to have our back against, because then we don't have any possibility of attack from behind. We can put ourselves into a corner. Now we only have two fronts that we have to try to fight. And we stay there and we're so afraid to move at that point. You have to trust to move your body differently, and you can experience life in a very different way.
Wow. It's so beautiful. Emotion is energy in motion. I love that so much. Oh my gosh. And so cold plunging might just be the one thing that you need to try and experience for yourself. Now, Grant, where can people find you? Because I'm sure they're going to be like, okay, wait, I need more.
Yeah, thank you. The easiest way to find me is on Instagram. I do everything through Instagram. I have a website right now that's being rebuilt. So the easiest place right now is to find me on Instagram. And as soon as that website's up and going again, I'll have that updated and on there. But yeah, I mean, like it's just my name, Grant Dziak, GrantDziak, and DM me. Tell me you listen to the show, like whatever it is. I don't like whatever it is. Just reach out to me. I love connecting with people. Like, and I
Yeah.
and I'm not one of those people that I like try to sell you into something. It's like you reach out to me, and I love just having conversation and connecting with people.
And I mean, we can feel that, and I'm so grateful for the experience we got to have together. It was like next level. I already know we're gonna meet each other again in one of the future many conferences I'm gonna go to, and that you're gonna go to, and we'll see each other there. But yeah, it's just incredible. And if you're listening and you're like, I need one of those in my home, because that's goal for sure. Then we're going to put the link to the TheraFrost. There's also a discount code that you can use if you want a little, some savings. We always love that. And Grant, I'm going to put your links also in the show notes so people can easily grab that. But thank you so much again for your wisdom, for creating safety in people's body, for helping them pattern interrupt. Like you're doing big things. Thank you.
But no, Vanessa, thank you. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for what you're doing in the world. Like I think that is so powerful and it's so needed right now more than ever.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the same journey. We're on the same path. So thank you so much.
Amen to that. So thank you as well.
The information shared on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't provide any medical advice. Vanessa Grutman does not cure, diagnose, or treat disease. Please consult your physician before trying any new protocol or product.